Okay, welcome to the Lenox Selectboard meeting. It is June 7th, 6 p.m. The announcements from the chair. One quick one. On Memorial Day, I failed to recognize certain people and I screwed up the names of other people, but be that as it may, I forgot to recognize the commander of the Lenox VFW post, Louis Fortune. So I want to shout out to Louis, who has done a great job in taking the post forward. And I look forward to Louis' leadership over the next few years. So thanks, Louis, and I'm sorry I missed you on Memorial Day. Okay, that being said, anybody here, or the acceptance of the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from May 24th, meeting of the Lenox Select Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Okay. And the next we have Citizens Open Forum, and I don't think anybody's here for that tonight. So, Ed, if you would read the consent agenda.
I'd love to.
Right.
First on the consent agenda, first we have a donation acceptance for the police department. Police Chief Steve O'Brien is seeking your approval to accept a monetary donation. And then from the Conservation Commission, we have Neil Carpenter has recommended that we appoint Andrew Silver to fill a vacancy on the board until 2025. One-day wine and malt license. Wham Theater is seeking a one-day wine and malt license for Thursday, June 22nd, from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at Benford Hall.
Thank you, Ed. So, can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we can move on to general business.
Okay, the first thing under general business is it's a continuation of a public hearing for an alteration of premises on the annual wine and malt restaurant license by Shots Cafe Lenox LLC, doing business as Shots Cafe. Liliana Ortega Tucker, manager for premises located at 27D Housatonic Street. Shots Cafe is seeking an alteration of premises on their annual wine and malt restaurant license. They wish to include outdoor service on their patio, offering 6 tables with a limit of 2 chairs per table. At your April 26th meeting, Attorney Jeff Lynch made a presentation to the board, but the board agreed that they needed to look into the matter further and voted to continue the public hearing until May 24th. At your May 24th hearing, you voted to continue the hearing until your June 7th meeting. The hearing is still open, so the board can hold a discussion regarding this request. Once the board has decided how to handle the request, a motion to close the public hearing will be necessary, followed by a motion to approve or disapprove an alteration of premises on an annual wine and malt license to Shots Cafe Lenox LLC, doing business as Shots Cafe. Liliana Ortega Tucker, manager for property located at 27D Housatonic Street.
Very good. So, where do we want to go from here?
So one of the things that I think led to the continuation, one of the continuations we had of this public hearing was the notion of a license for the use of the dining area, which is on a public sidewalk. Its inclusion in the ABCC application, and I think the solution to that problem, and I've discussed with town council, is, if ABCC is inclined to approve the license, the town could issue a revocable license with a time limitation according to our own bylaws of 6 months. So I've prepared a motion that would, I think, accomplish that in this instance, that could make all parties happy, and the process could move forward with ABCC upon your approval as the licensing authority.
I agree with what you said. I think we started this discussion and there were some questions. We all had questions about the fact it was on town property. And my concern was, what control do we have? Because once you grant the license, alcohol license, you can't yank that without a good reason. So if there's a problem, you just can't, it has to be a real problem. But having us sign a 6-month lease or a 6-month grant, 6 months use of the land to the restaurant, that can be revoked at any time if there was a problem. And I doubt there's ever going to be a problem here, but, we always want to cover ourselves and do the right thing. And so this arrangement makes me feel comfortable with everything, all the concerns I had. So my recommendation would be to go along with this. And, the details of using the property on the town property, set that aside from the license part of it. And that would be something the town manager, we could task the town manager to sort out the details between that and Attorney Lynch. Those are my thoughts.
Good. Anybody else?
You good with that? I mean, I essentially agree with what Ed said. Are you clear on how to move forward, and you guys will work that out?
Crystal. And I think it's a way to license activity apart from the alcohol component, activity that is ongoing anyway, and at least hasn't caused a problem to my knowledge recently.
It accomplishes what we want to do.
Which is, I think, what we want. I mean, we didn't want to pull the rug out from anybody when this first came up. It was just, there was a confluence of different requests of different natures all at the same time, and suddenly it became a concern like, well, wait, there's a lot of people asking for using town property either to sell things or to conduct their business or to give classes, different things, and we decided we should have a discussion about that. I was probably the guy that said that, but I do think that we can separate those down into different components and take them as we do. And I think to not delay shots any longer and to delay an ongoing activity that's already there just with an amendment with the alcohol part, I think this makes sense.
What are your thoughts?
I'm happy to hear the conversation on it. I think it is, under the bylaw, one of the requirements is that the board should formally recognize a license, a permission agreement for that area. So I think that accomplishes it, and I'm glad we were able to get to sort of the next level of the conversation.
Okay, so then I recommend we close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So I'll make a motion to approve the application of Shots Cafe Lenox LLC for an alteration of licensed premises at, a licensed premise is at 27D Housatonic Street, dated March 28, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, Jeff, we hope your client is going to be happy with that.
Very much so.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
We
Thank you.
got another motion for them.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Also, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town manager to execute a land use license with Shots Cafe LLC to facilitate consistency between a permitted dining area and the premises approved by the ABCC for serving alcohol, provided that alcohol should not be permitted in the licensed outdoor area after November 1st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Great.
Appreciate it. Very bad chance to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah, where are we? Sorry.
We were just about to ask for your opinion on.
In conclusion,
Sure, sounds good.
Shots Cafe.
Cool. All right,
so we're going to move on to the,
to the public notice, public hearing,
Now we're going to Panda House.
Panda House.
so we're going to move on to the Panda House, and if you'd like to open the public hearing with reading.
You want to do it?
Sure. Thank you. Town of Lenox Notice of Public Hearing Select Board. Notice is hereby given that a hearing will be held by the Select Board in their capacity as licensing board on an application for a transfer of an annual all-alcoholic restaurant license and a change of manager which has been filed with the local licensing board by Panda House Zoo Incorporated, doing business as Panda House Restaurant, when turnkey day manager for premises located at 506 Pittsfield Road, Lenox, and consisting of a single-story restaurant with a service and patron bar. The board will act on said application on Wednesday, June 7th at 2023 at 6 PM in the Select Board's Meeting Room, Town Hall Building, Lenox, Mass. Dave Roach, Chair, Lenox Select Board. I move to open the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Can you give us a little background on this, Jeff?
Certainly. Attorney Jeff Lynch for the applicant. Currently, Panda House Restaurant has been operated by a company called C&Z, Charlie and Zebra Food Service, Inc. For the past probably 10 years plus. They have a purchase and sale agreement with a new entity, Panda House Sioux, Inc., which looks to operate the business. There is no requested changes to the business at all. They're not making any additions or renovations to the space. Same hours, same menu. It's basically a turnkey switch. When those kinds of sales occur, we need permission of this board and the ABCC to transfer the existing liquor license and to name a new manager for the new company. The new company, Panda House Sioux, Inc., its 100% owner is YG Sioux. He is the president, treasurer, and clerk of the company and 100% shareholder. The proposed manager for the liquor license is Wen Chi Dai, and Wen Chi Dai will also be the sole director of the corporation. Wen Chi Dai is an American citizen, where YG Sioux is not. And so we have to meet the requirement of having a U.S. citizen as the director. Wen Chi Dai, who is the liquor license manager, has recently moved to the area. He's in Pittsfield now, so that he can be closer to the restaurant. Since immigrating from China, he's been in the restaurant business. I've had the opportunity to meet with him and the principal owner on multiple occasions over the past months as we've been putting together these applications. I'm confident in their abilities, their familiarity with Panda House Restaurant. They have close relations with the former operators of that business, so I know that there's going to be a seamless transition as they work together for that. The restaurant currently is owned by another third-party entity and been operating under a lease agreement. That lease agreement stays in place with the new entity. There was no financing involved. This is a self-financed purchase, so there's no liens or requests for pledges of the license. So the request is fairly straightforward to recognize the new ownership transition, allow the transfer of the liquor license to the new company and naming of Wen Chi Dai as the manager.
I think that was comprehensive explanation.
Yeah.
Seems pretty simple and straightforward. I don't really see any reasons to not grant it.
No change in the menu.
That would have been one, right? Start asking more questions.
I'm good with that.
Sounds good to me.
So we can close the public hearing.
All right, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now I move to approve the application of Panda House Sioux Incorporated for transfer of license and change of manager at 506 Pittsfield Road, dated May 2nd, 2023.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Good evening.
You too.
You as well.
So now we move to the subjective part of our brief. So we're going to talk a little bit about the policy for use of town property for financial gain. And Chris has been nice enough to put together some pointers here, but I think I'm going to ask him to go ahead and comment. Does anyone want to comment before Chris, or we're going to turn it over to Chris for a minute? Okay. Okay, Chris.
I'm happy and
research.
eager to speak about it. So to back up, I think Mr. Lane and Mr. Maximilian had alluded earlier in the meeting that we started with sort of a broad topic area, and that's certainly what the agenda item as worded implies. How do we properly and consistently process some of the requests that we get for the use of town property? And for the purpose of tonight, I think maybe starting with a smaller subset of that broader municipal property category might be appropriate. Here, I've got a memo that I've prepared for you as it relates specifically to parks. And maybe starting with that, we might be able to accomplish, and then move on to other areas as time and analysis permits. So on the topic of parks, I've got a couple of sort of thematic bullet points that where I've quite selfishly tried to use my background in municipal finance and apply some of those same principles that we would use in that field towards use of public assets, specifically land and parks in this instance. So there's a concept in municipal finance that it's called the public purpose limitation. You have to limit the use of public funds for clearly defined public purposes, or at least majority public purpose uses. It's okay that the use of public funds benefits private entities so long as the main impetus for the expenditure is for some public purpose. Taking that same theme, that same concept, and applying it towards land seems appropriate. Well, there's not necessarily a statute that you can point to specific, other than the Massachusetts Anti-Aid Amendment or other niche statutes. The same principle could apply. So a public purpose for public land might be something like the apple squeeze, right? It's an event that has historic events in its mind and in its essence, the departure of the cottage era cottagers and sort of the return of the town to the year-round residents, and the celebration that ensues as a result of that annual event that took place hundreds of years ago. It also has the benefit of being an event that brings the community together in general. The town doesn't necessarily spend any money on that, and while the chamber, which runs it, uses it as a tremendous fundraising opportunity, the main use of the public land that's occupied during that event could be construed, and I think is clearly construed, as having a public benefit. Free attendance for the residents and the enjoyment of the residents. So, that'd be probably the most conspicuous example of what we might be talking about here. So, how do you formulate something like that into a policy? You could provide a series of tests for any applicant. And some of those tests might include either a no profit or non-profit component, charging a uniform fee for the use, depending on which category someone might fall in, and requiring, as we do with some community events, mostly involving the library, which has an MBLC requirement to make free access to public events, a cornerstone of their ethos. Making that part of a land use policy, sort of expanding that same concept into our parks. So these are the concepts that I've kind of circled around over the last week or so, and I've tried to articulate them in a memo for the purposes of facilitating the discussion that y'all are about to have. So by way of introduction, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So we can certainly talk about this. I think thank you for the work that you've done on this, and I think that it has a lot of merit. I think it's something we should continue to pursue. You know what I mean? I'm for it. Don't get me wrong, but there are a number of people out there who believe that we have an asset, why not use it, why not get money for it? And so I'm just going to, while I'm not necessarily in favor of that approach, there are people who are, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't recognize that and say that, yeah, we've got the asset, why aren't we exploiting it, try to ease a little bit on a tax burden or whatever we wanted to use the money for, even the upkeep of the asset. So I think that needs to also factor into the conversation. I think we need to speak to that, but I lean certainly towards what you've presented. It's, in essence, that's what we've kind of been doing. Isn't that true?
In many ways, we have that in place for comparable assets, just not all of our assets, if you will. For example, let's say I want to teach guitar lessons at the community center, and I call Darlene, and she says, yeah, it's $100 to rent the room for an hour. You can charge any amount of people as much as you want. Now, if I just said, well, I don't want to pay Darlene $100, so I'll just tell all my friends to meet me in Lilac Park, and I'll teach them in the park, and I don't get charged anything. That's sort of, it's kind of a uniformity that I'm looking for. I mean, we can rent the Duffin Theater if we want. We can, we can rent the town fields. I mean, we can, so we have a lot of places that have sort of a fee schedule already attached to them. And I'm not looking to nickel and dime everybody for like doing anything. But I think some kind of all-purpose, and we're just starting with parks because it's too hard to talk about sidewalks and parks and interior rooms and downstairs and all that all at once. And I certainly don't want to pull the rug out of anybody that's already been doing something. But I think Chris's concepts are accurate. I mean, I don't know if we should say nonprofits only. I mean, for-profit people can rent the Duffin Theater or a room in the community center and do a ballroom dancing class or whatever they want, so.
Right.
I don't want to overcomplicate it at all. And you guys brought up a good point. I agree. Is there a way we could, as far as a fee structure, I mean, we rent out the auditorium, I don't know what we get for it. We get something for it. And if it was a business that wanted to do something at Lilac Park, it would have to be limited to a small portion of Lilac Park. I don't want to close the whole park off to the public when something's going on.
Right.
And, make a fee that's appropriate, say $100, whatever it is. But I'd like us to have the ability to waive a fee for any nonprofit and that type of thing. So,
or as Chris brought out, what was the terminology here? Public purpose. Yeah, because I think that's
that's the intent of having.
Yeah, that's the intent. That's
Like,
important.
We have the LYBA, who has their basketball fundraiser in the summertime, and they, pay the cost of putting up the tent and all of that, and, they charge for breakfast, and that's a lovely affair, and they're raising money for the basketball program for the good of the community, which is great.
That's
Our parks are used for T-ball that the community center runs to help teach our kids, basic baseball skills, which is for the good of the community. I'm sure that they're not charge fees. But if we have people who come in who want to offer yoga classes and they want to do it in one of our parks and charge people, that's a private concern. That's, somebody would have to rent a yoga studio or rent a place to do that. If they're taking the funds that these people are going to pay and putting them in their pocket, and they're using the park, they're getting something and they're not necessarily being charged for the use of that space. So I think it's important that we do have things for people who are making a living.
That borders on the fact that it's not public purpose. number
Correct,
one.
yeah, it's
not
a private
nonprofit.
purpose, right,
It's not nonprofit. So I mean, I think we have all the right in the world to
absolutely.
figure out what a fee schedule might look like
Yeah.
for something like that.
Yeah. Plus the fact that we're mowing the grass,
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's an
emptying the
example.
trash cans.
That's an example I was going to bring up
Yeah.
when I ran
The
the
maintenance.
Lenox Youth Soccer Club, which is a nonprofit but not school,
Right.
just Lenox children
Right.
Right,
come play soccer in our youth programs. I mean, you're a coach for it, right?
I'm on the board.
So, you know, we use the school fields sometimes. We use the
Yeah.
field that BUTI is kind enough to let us use over by Morris and things like that. Now, we have traditionally, I don't know how it still works, my kids have long been gone from it and I'm long removed from it, but we used to hire outside professional coaches to augment our amateur parent coaches. If that third-party professional decided, I'm gonna hold my own camp over here on the school ball field,
Yeah.
and, you know, we're gonna use it 3 days a week, and it's gonna get pretty torn up, and then when they wanna play football, they're gonna be upset at how torn up the field is, you know, there actually is a cost to the town for it. So it is kind of ostensibly for the greater good, because any Lenox child can join. There's not like
Is there a fee?
you do pay a fee.
Yeah, okay. Good point.
So it's, you know, it's gray, and I think it needs thought,
right.
Yeah.
but I think we
Yeah.
brought up some examples that we wouldn't want to happen without at least us knowing about it, and
Right.
having the opportunity to engage with the people doing it.
I agree with everything you said. The problem we're going to have is trying to keep it simple and consistent. Because every time somebody's going to call, it's going to be something different for some reason. I mean, it's going to be, so keeping it simple and consistent is going to be the.
And renting
Yeah.
is not really our core mission.
Right.
No, it's not. We've obviously failed miserably.
As an example, that should come under the school, shouldn't it?
What's that?
It
If you're
would.
gonna rent the soccer field,
Yeah.
use a soccer field, or coaches use the gyms in the wintertime for camps, in the summertime for camps.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they do all that kind of stuff, but that's
School.
Yeah.
I hope they're charging.
They are.
DAD does have a list of expenses. I don't know how well updated it is and things like that, but I think the original mission was just to cover custodial fees if you were doing something like in the gym, stuff like that, but
But we've got a couple of parks that come under our jurisdiction.
Yeah, so if we take that part of it out of the mix and we just worry about the parks,
Yeah.
we want to keep it simple. I think Mary Beth's 100% right, and if there was a group that wanted to use it, they can't use the whole thing if they're gonna have 30 people down there.
Right.
Okay, they're not gonna disrupt, tell people you can't have coffee down here now because
Right.
we got a yoga camp going on.
Right, yeah.
So we have to limit it to size,
Yeah.
and,
And then there's also the events that we've already approved for the summer, like Art Week and,
They're
Lenox
nonprofit,
Loves
so.
Jazz and all of this other stuff. So coordinating with the chamber is important, coordinating with Mary Ellen is important, because we have said yes to a lot of entities already.
Right, but most of those meet the nonprofit.
Oh, they absolutely do, but I'm
So-
saying that there are for-profit entities that want to use the park, that even if we had a fee schedule, they would still be juggling against things that we've already approved.
Right.
So
So,
are you saying there's a hierarchy of access?
I'm
Is that the right way to say
saying
it?
that if there's stuff that's already on the calendar,
Oh, yeah.
people are gonna have to check, yeah.
this isn't gonna be a money-making operation.
Oh.
I can tell you that right now, because there's gonna be limited time you can do it, we're gonna, a few times it's gonna happen. Let's
I don't
just,
think we want it to make
Keep it-
money.
let's just keep it
We just want to
simple.
have
And the one-
equitable
We just wanna have
access.
equitable access.
So you don't, it's no intention to make, I don't, just because I'm from municipal finance, I'm not trying to
Yeah,
build shareholder equity here. I'm
Yeah.
trying to create public value. You know, but in that is, you know, you're trying to balance between, you know, not wanting to make money, but also not having a tragedy of the commons where, you know, everybody's cow goes out and eats the grass and then there's no more grass. So there's a balance we want to
Right.
strike here.
exactly.
Okay, let's strike it.
So where do you want to move, where do you want to move from here? How do you want to proceed?
I think that we addressed a specific applicant that needed an answer on the use of their table service,
Oh, yeah.
which had been part of the compendium of different requests that we got. So I don't know that we have any imminent requests that are.
We do.
Okay.
We have one more imminent request. That was somewhere along the lines of what I explained, but not specific to that. But, you know, someone wanting to use our park, wanting to charge a fee for their activity, and, you know, if
Are they a nonprofit?
they're not.
Okay, well, that kind of falls
Yeah.
outside of this.
Exactly.
I think we've pretty much met a consensus here of
Yes.
what we want to see,
Yeah.
how we want to see it happen, and just, maybe we could just make it happen.
What about this? Would you be willing to propose, you know, over the next couple of weeks, I'm willing to work with you if you want, like a fee structure, if you will, so that it's not free, but we're not trying to make it Lenox Inc. makes money, and/or a commission structure. I mean, some of the proposed requests would
Yeah,
be
right.
like, help me sell something, right?
Take a
I mean,
percentage.
I don't know. I'm presuming maybe you know Mindy's business pretty well, but, you know, you can go there and you can see people's artwork on the wall that's for sale, and presumably they would pay Canyon Ranch a commission or something if it gets sold, so that seems like a pretty well-established practice, right? You know.
Yeah.
Seems fair.
Well, that comes up because we've had artwork in the parks over the years, many times, and they're for sale. And,
Well, I mean, we do it at every craft fair.
no, but I mean for the summer.
Oh,
Yeah, where they're installed in one of our
Installed
parks.
in the
yeah.
parks.
Oh, I see what you're
So that's something that we should, while
Look at as
considering
well.
this, we should consider that
Yeah,
too.
that's a good idea.
But parks,
Parks.
you know, like something prominently placed in one of our parks, I think that's coming under what we're talking about. Again, I don't want to chase around every vendor in town and say, hey, that's kind of on our sidewalk and not in your doorway. You know, that, I don't want to do
No, but if it's in
any of
our
that.
greenway in front of the library, going all the way down to Housatonic Street, that's clearly
Yeah,
our land. And if they're putting statues there, or whatever, sculptures, and they've got a price tag on them,
yeah,
it's totally, I think that's fair
That's all I
game.
mean,
That's
yeah.
fair game.
yeah.
I mean, another consideration that I know is always at the front of Mary Ellen's mind is the issue of insurance in
Oh, yeah, right.
cases like that. And she's expressed that to me
Especially some of those sculptures weigh hundreds and hundreds of
frequently,
pounds.
and she's not wrong.
Right, yeah.
Right, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. The insurance component is a very important one
All right.
for things like that.
So I think we could put something together.
Yeah, why don't we work on it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to keep kicking the can down the road, but I think this is appropriate. We need to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
This is about the only way we can
This
have all
isn't-
of our voices in the room. to
This
talk
isn't
about
kicking it down the road, this is getting some concrete
Yeah.
direction.
And I think we're all in agreement.
Pretty much, I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Good?
Yeah,
Anything you want to add to that, Max? You good with it?
no, I agree with everyone.
All right. Ed?
No, I'm fine. Move forward.
Okay, then. Next week, Chris, would you see to it that Mary Ellen puts on the agenda the transfer of power here? I want to sit over where Ed's sitting. Something like, so we can.
Board reorganization.
Board reorganization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
choose your words carefully. The golf world is completely upside down because of the headlines that kind of didn't come out exactly right.
Oh,
It was
boy.
basically like every tour on the planet merged and is being funded by
Oh,
the wrong guy.
Isn't that
Election of
unbelievable?
new chair and clerk.
Yeah.
Okay. Say no more. I think I understand.
Okay.
Great.
So if we get a report from Clarence on this damn weather we got coming in here, I think we can close the meeting. What's happening with those fires, that smoke and stuff?
Yeah, I think the worst is over for now.
Oh, do you? Because I saw pictures of Manhattan today. Well, you couldn't see. It was horrible.
Yeah. The plume was moved south, New York, Philadelphia, and DC is the next stop.
Wow.
I thought it was pretty pungent yesterday afternoon before it rained.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
It
When the
was.
wind came up, it really it blew it in, it didn't blow it out.
Bad stuff.
It's very good. Any of our emergency services get called because people couldn't breathe or anything? Are we good on that?
Not so far as I'm aware.
Okay.
However, the Tri-Town Board of Health has been on top of
Okay.
getting the information out on, different things that folks can do to eliminate this.
It's a mess.
Yeah, that's been out, and I think they canceled some outdoor school practices today.
Right.
As a result.
I know a lot of school and club events have been canceled because of the
The outside events were canceled?
several of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the right call.
Okay. Okay, so before I entertain a motion to adjourn, our next regular meeting will be Wednesday, June 21st, 6 PM, right here. Anybody else have anything they want to add before I adjourn? You good? Okay.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you all.